Tonight we'll be talking about mainly the coronavirus site that me and a couple of the people built, and it was centered around the automation of COVID-19 statistic tracking in TNT. While we were on this journey, we kind of stumbled upon some limitations because while, we stumbled upon some limitations and we'll share those with you in a few. We'll also talk about what the Ministry of Health currently offers to us, how we were able to basically just track or trend COVID-19 in TNT, and then the future work that we have planned for the site as well. So when the pandemic initially started, it was a bit difficult as a tech-savvy person to find information about the virus in Trinidad and Tobago, especially with regards to social media links or just browsing the relevant authorities' websites, trying to find the legislation, the public health ordinance, and all these kind of things. So we had an idea to just create, one basic repository, accessible repository of all of that information so that people could just be aware. And apart from that, we also wanted to go one step further, where we didn't want you to have to come back to the website just to be updated, right? We wanted you to just stay in the know, and you'll see how we did that in a couple minutes. So the core purpose at the start was to just get the information and get it out to the public in a simplified manner, yet still retain the links to the authoritative bodies of information out there. So how we actually implemented that core purpose varied from the start to the finish, because as we know, the ministry at the start used to have 3 posts per day. And the format of that post changed somewhere along the way, right? So as of today, or as of right now, how we essentially capture the fundamental statistics like active cases and whatnot is that we scrape the Ministry of Health posts every 2 minutes during the hours of 4 to 7. And when I say we scrape the Ministry of Health posts, I mean that we essentially go on the Facebook website and we look at the most recent post. And if that post has the update number that we're looking for, then we know that that post has links to the actual image that they upload as well, right? So now, of course, we don't, as a human, we don't actually go and do that. We have a bot that does that for us. So if it doesn't get the link to the image, then it just, waits 2 minutes and then starts the whole process again. And the 2-minute wait is strictly because, one, it makes no sense that, if you don't get a post the first time you run this whole process, to go and retry immediately. Like, it's not like they're going to upload a post, 100 milliseconds or 1 second after you scan. So that, and the way we currently get posts from Facebook is not the best way. So the best way would be to actually integrate officially with Facebook and all these things, but we can't do that. So, or we're not able to do that as yet. So right now, the bot essentially just visits the link, waits for everything to load, grabs the most recent post, passes the text. If it has the number, yay. If not, just wait 2 minutes again and restart. So once the bot actually once it verifies that that post that it just grabbed was, before I start explaining this graph, the reason why we start between 4 to 7 is sort of based on historical evidence. They started uploading 1 post every day at around 4:30. So we would start the scans at 4 and then terminate at 7. And if we have no scans after 7 p.m., then we manually go and investigate. But I can't remember the last time they haven't posted somewhere between 4:30 to 5:10 p.m. It's been a while. So yeah. So if we start at 1 on this graph, This is where at 4 p.m. we would reach out to Facebook and grab the most recent post. And at 2, if the post is in fact the COVID-19 dashboard that we've all come to know, then we download that image on the Raspberry Pi, and then we send that image via 3 to the Google Cloud Vision API. So the Vision API is responsible for actually converting all the text on the image to machine readable text. So it would just read in the first page of the COVID-19 dashboard from the ministry and extract all the text into one gigantic long string, and then send that back to us via 4. And after the response from 4, what we do is we parse the text and look for keywords like active cases, deaths, and stuff like that. And because it's a standard report, we know that after a certain amount of spaces or characters, the number for that particular property would appear, the property being active cases, deaths, things like that. So once we extract the data from the big long string of text that we get back, then we run some error detection, make sure that the numbers that return to us aren't greater than the population of Trinidad and Tobago, make sure that things like the number of tests performed or the total number of cases aren't less than the day before, and other technical checks, like make sure the number in the first place and not just some characters. And once all those checks have passed, then we send the data to our users, right? So we have basically two user bases, our user base on Twitter and our website user base. So once the post passed the checks on the Pi, the Pi sends a tweet and with all the latest information. And then it also writes the information that it gathered from the post to Google Cloud Firestore. And Firestore is a NoSQL database that we use. And for our intents and purposes, it's completely free of charge. So that's always a plus. And it allows us to have really fast access to anywhere in the world, really, because of the way that they built Firestore. So yeah, so we write to Firestore, and then when we do that, there's a trigger that spins up a process that sends out push notifications. So before I mentioned that we didn't want our users to have to access the site just to be notified or just to check for updates. Like it would just come into their phones and you would have that information ready and available. So we did that via the push notifications. So once the Pi writes to Firestore, it kicks up a process, and the process sends the notifications out to our users. And it also updates the COVID-19 dashboard that we have on the website as well. So you might be wondering why we use a Raspberry Pi in the first place. And that was primarily driven by cost. Like it would have been cheaper to run the Raspberry Pi to do that kind of processing back and forth with Facebook than it would have been to run a cloud function every 2 minutes between 4 to 7 and then report the results back to us. So, and it was also quite fun to do on the Pi. So that's basically how we implement the whole automated flow of coronavirus tt.info. We reach out to Facebook, get the post, extract the text, error check it, and then send it out to Twitter and our database. So that brings us to the data that we actually extract. And that would be just the first page of the updates that they send out. So all of these parameters here, the recovered patients, active positive cases, recently the vaccinations, and the step down and quarantine facilities, all of that, everything that's on the first page, we extract. The problem with the second page is that the links themselves aren't of the same like format that we would expect for the bot, and they change so much that we have problems in actually reconstructing it and getting it in the first place to extract. And in addition to that, these numbers by themselves just tell us the number of patients that are in a particular facility. We don't have access to like facility data, and I'll come to that point in a minute. But beyond that, all we've been able to do is basically plot the graph of the cases, active cases, deaths, and recoveries for a user-specified time frame. Now, I say user-specified time frame because on the site you could choose a particular month between 2020 or 2021, or you could choose an actual year. In this case, we chose 2020 just to highlight this graph, and you could see, you know, how the virus went in TNT for the year of 2020. So the blue shows the cases, the green shows the recoveries, purple is the active, and red, unfortunately, is the deaths. So once you hover over any particular data point, you would actually be able to see the particulars of that data point that you're hovering over. And we have some plans for this graph that I'll share with you in a few moments. So the limitations that we've come across while we were undergoing this entire process is that, of course, the data that they release isn't readily available for like machine processing. We have to go through quite a process before we could actually get something that we can just push into, you know, a script or program to just run and give us insights. The room for inconsistencies, they could change the report at any point in time, which would break our entire pipeline because we would have to now go and basically look at the output and see how to extract the new data or extract the data based on their new format. And sometimes too, well, that's why we implemented error checking in the first place, because sometimes the posts themselves would have incorrect data, and then we would push incorrect data to our users, and then people would just be like, there was something wrong. So at that point, when there is an error, we don't do anything. We don't push anything to our database or anything like that. We just go and notify the ministry by commenting on whatever social platform that post was made. And then hopefully they fix it. And if not, then that error just stays in that post and we have no way of correcting that error, because we just can't assume that the next day when they post that the difference there was accurate. If the source data was wrong, we don't have any way of correcting that. The data they also provide doesn't give us any insights within the healthcare system. Primarily, we aren't able to identify, you know, where in the entire healthcare chain that most people pass away. If it is that it's just before the ICU stage, or while they're in the ICU, while they're just in at the general ward level, is it a week after they recovered, you know, things like that. All that we get is an aggregated count of how many people die. Was that person even in the healthcare system at all? Or was it that they died and then we had some tests and then we figured out that they died from COVID? In addition to that ambiguity, we have right, sorry. Yeah, so, and also we have no objective count of the number of resources allocated to ICUs and HDUs. The hospital capacity that I mentioned on the second page of, the hospital occupancy or healthcare facility occupancy that I mentioned on page 2 of their updates, just give us the numbers of people that are in that facility, but it doesn't tell us at the capacity of that particular facility. So telling us that we have 24 people at this particular place doesn't really say much apart from the fact that we have 24 people. It doesn't say that, okay, my capacity was 20 and now I have 4 people over and stress resources, or my capacity is 50 and we could handle more, or things like that. And that, in addition to how resources are dynamically allocated to each facility, I think it would just be a good idea for the public to know and to have a reality check on how the healthcare system is. Like, we know that it's stressed out right now, but by how much, And for some people, I guess numbers mean a lot of things. So seeing that a number attached to, how stressed the healthcare system is might encourage them to follow the guidelines more closely, which could, in fact, help on some small level, but it will still help. And in addition to all of this, we have no publicly available data on the origin of cases on a regular basis. They do publish some graphs and aggregated data, but I think that's with every 2 or 3 months. And it's not data that we have access to. If we wanted, we'll have to go and run it through, image processing again. And it doesn't really help us to do that because the data is so spaced out. Insights and things like that and models to train would depend on fresh data. So to use stale data would not be indicative of how the virus is actually trending in TNT. So with all that in mind, what we intend to do with coronavirus CT or OSMI is to develop the cross-platform mobile application to reach more users, because the way that we currently deliver notifications that you don't have to go on the site to check is simply just not supported by Apple iOS. It's either you have an app with Apple or you don't. So we have to get an app on the Apple App Store in order to push those notifications. We also needed to rework the graph to include all the data points that we collect, of course, in a user-friendly fashion. So you would have the 4 points that we plot out with the ability to toggle the rest of data points that we collect, as well as adding in the weekly rolling average stats for stats. We're also looking into creating an API just to, for now, get the latest daily data. We had some people reach out that they wanted to create just a website for their portfolio or power one of their Power BI applications, and they had to use APIs from elsewhere, but none specifically for Trinidad. And as you could see, getting the data in a machine readable form is not an easy process. So opening that up, we would love to create an API for them to use. Because we're developing a cross-platform app, we're also looking at developing a scalable contact tracing algorithm that would involve all the nuances of contact tracing, things like the service industry. So if you're a waiter, waitress, you can't have your phone in your pocket. You have to put it in the section where you're supposed to keep your device. If you're a cashier, things like that. So your device is in one place, but you're interacting with a lot of people at the same time. Even public transportation, like sometimes, you jump in a taxi for a short drop and then a minute or two, you're out of the taxi. So it's not that we could just limit the algorithm to grab data at intervals. We have to come up with a smart way as to when to grab the data. Like some condition has to be met to say, let's grab the data, add it to the database, and then ultimately someone in authority would flag certain users as being positive, and then an entire process would kick up and go back 14 days and look at all the people that that particular person or device was in contact with, and then, you know, from there that that person was in, you know, contact with a COVID positive person. We also have to obtain an official FB API key so that we could scrape posts from Facebook without getting in trouble. And then ideally, we would like to analyze the data and perform predictive insights. So there's a lot of work ahead of us, but and I know we getting vaccinated and all of that, but we'll still continue working just so that if something were to develop from the situation anymore, we would be prepared for it technologically. So that brings me to the end of my presentation, and I'll take any questions now.
Yeah, just a quick question before I pass it over to Nicholas. Yeah, very nice work, Simeon. And it's you're doing this for free for the public. You know, this should get some more recognition. So we should try to find ways for you to advertise this more. Because I see the sort of hoops you have to go through. Is it hoops or loops that you have to go through?
Hoops, yeah.
To go through to get it done. My question is, how do sites like Johns Hopkins, etc., get the data from Trinidad? Is it?
I think they rely.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think they rely on manual updates. I know Worldometer, I believe you send the case number, you know, something like that, and they have to manually verify it. If somebody could correct me on that, that would be great. But I think that's how it's currently done.
Okay, and the ministry, I mean, the ministry should be able to set it up for direct access easily. But you ever talk to them about doing that?
We've tried, but it hasn't been successful, in the sense that we didn't really get a response from them. So
okay, yeah, unfortunately, because yeah, so I mean, you're doing a lot of work here, and they could do a lot less work on their side and remove a lot of the complexities you have, and you know, but anyway, that's a whole different.
Yeah.
But thanks, very good work. Thanks for that, and thanks for, I guess, some of the other developers are online here. So yeah, thanks to them as well. Yeah, so I guess well, Nicholas, you still have a question because I know your hand was up.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks a lot. Awesome presentation, Simeon. I'm so happy to see, you know, people tackling this. And I just vexed that when you now come across this project, because I see you use Google products and technologies, and we have a local user group called the Google Developer Group, and they had a regional summit, and I'd love to feature up. But I think we should definitely talk and, you know, and help getting the word out. My question is actually, I guess I had more comments, because yeah, I also built an app too. And I had an issue with the way the ministry is publishing the data. And before they changed to this new format, I was using the old one. So I think projects like this is, I think, is a really good case study in letting, you know, letting the ministry know how important it is to publish data in an actual accessible way. Because we made comments on the social media saying, well, you know, they have blind people on Twitter, you know, they can actually use screen readers, but if you're just putting it out in images, they can't read these things.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just want to say great job. And I guess the only question I have is how's the Firebase functions billing looking like? Like, how much is it to run? How much is costing, if you could say?
Well, you have 2 million invocations free per month per project, right?
That's Blaze from free.
Yeah, they only have 2. I think it's free and Blaze. They removed this, yeah, they removed this Spark plan a while back because it wasn't economical or something of the sort. But in any case, I don't think we would have crossed 2 million invocations.
Oh, so it's all free.
Sorry?
It's all free tier right now then.
Sometimes it's free. When we have a lot of hits and a lot of people loading the sites, those would be direct call to the database, and it would exceed the free tier, but that would be on a daily basis, and it wouldn't be too much. It would be in the in the amount of cents. Like I think the highest we ever paid so far was about 3 or 4 US per month. Of course,
okay.
Yeah, of course that cost would grow as you scale, but we took measures to ensure that, you know, if it went out of control in terms of scaling, the costs would still be kept down. But with respect to the cloud invocations, you still have 2 million free per month per project. And that in the early days, when we had 3 posts from the ministry, we would have to run that within those 3 time frames. And you know, at an extreme case, you have 86,400 seconds in a day. Let's just say we were gunning every second, then that would scale out of hand pretty quickly. So we just decided to use the Pi at that point.
So the Pi is like a way you do it, like a script that's just happening, or a cron job.
Yeah, a cron job, exactly. Yeah, a cron job that just spins up at 4, runs every 2 minutes, and then shuts down at 7.
Man, this is so cool. All right, yeah, thanks a lot.
You're welcome. Thank you. Yeah. I see Jason has a question.
Yeah, Jason.
Hey, Simeon, it's Jason.
Hey, Jason.
Really good stuff here. I mean, I know you're doing some real good things here. There is someone in Guyana. I told him about the stuff you were doing. He's built an app using stuff that he pulls off of the Guyanese Ministry of Health's website. Very similar to what you're doing here. And he's built an app as well. So what I'll do is probably put you in touch with him, and he could probably help you out if you're looking to
thank you.
the app and whatnot. The other note is we started looking at some new metrics as well for forecasting and whatnot. So when you're ready to start building the rest of your graphs and whatnot, just let me know and we can work on that together.
Yeah,
but honestly, really good work you're doing here.
Thank you.
Hey, good stuff. One question, you had some issues with the Apple Store, right? But wouldn't the PWA be able to work? I think the PWA guru, Mr. Mendes, could probably chime in here. But I think PWA should be able to run on the Apple as well, right?
No, no, Apple just simply blocked the notifications from PWAs. Because the website right now does have PWA support, and it does work on basically every platform except for Apple iOS. They just simply don't have support for notifications on Apple iOS for PWAs. So the only way to get push notifications is to have an app.
Oh, okay, that sucks. All right, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, one other thing, Simeon, if at some point in time, you know, you need some funding, you know, talk to me and I could help with that aspect. What we should also try to do is, you know, bring this to the attention to Minister Bacchus, you know, the Minister of Digital Transformation, Ministry of Digital Transformation. So, but I could chat with you offline about that.
Yeah, sure. I'd appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right. I don't think we have any more questions.
The data that you collect in the Firebase store, that accessible or anything? Or...
Not right now. That would be accessible through the API soon. But
okay,
if I guess I could dump it to CSV for you, but it just wouldn't be like updated every day, of course.
Or maybe just push like auto push targets or something, and you just go there and grab it. So you don't have no hosting cost or anything. You just update.
All right, cool. Yeah, I'll look into that.
Get a page or something.
you.